maybe I should make a whole video on the dangers of being drunk. So today is going to be my first ever story time slash advice video, and I'm gonna go big or go home and start heavy with my one night stand stories. And as a disclaimer, like, let's take a moment to be serious for a second. I am in no way trying to claim that either of these stories were a sexual assault. I think sexual assault is an extremely serious circumstance, and in my situation, even if it sounds like it may have been that, it absolutely was not. So I don't want anybody to get it twisted, because that's not what I'm trying to discuss here. I have not been a victim of sexual assault. I cannot speak personally about that, so that's not what this video is about. I have two one-night stand stories, and I find that a little ironic because going into college, I told myself I would never ever have a one-night stand, and now here I am, only a sophomore, and I've already had two. But before you judge, you have to hear the story. But if you want to judge, I mean, whatever, fuck you, go ahead and judge me. So the first story was the first one, and it was my fall semester of my freshman year. So I had only been in college for like 2 months. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say that when you go into college, you feel so adult and you think you know so much, even if you are the most mature 18 or 19-year-old going into college. I promise you, you don't know shit, because I considered myself so mature for my age. I felt that I'd experienced so much and that I could handle anything that college threw at me. I basically did every single thing that I told myself I would never do in my entire life. So like literally never say never. And I didn't know how to handle any of those situations when I thought I would be able to handle anything. And I think it just goes to show that no matter how emotionally strong of a person you are, certain things can really start to like tear away at you, and that's perfectly okay. Like, we're all human. It was only my freshman fall, so I'd only been at college for 2 months, and I am at a university that's not where my parents live. So I am like 4 states away from my family, extremely independent. Any situation that happens to me, I had to figure out how to figure it out on my own. I could call my parents for advice, but one, sometimes you don't want your parents to know of certain things that you've done or situations that you've gotten yourself into. And two, it's just hard being away from the entire support system that you grew for 18 or 19 years. So I was all on my own. I'd only been at my school for 2 months, and there was this guy in one of my classes. And I guess I'll give him a fake name because I'm sure in videos in the future I will reference some of these people in these stories again for the sake of other advice or other learning lessons. So we'll name this guy Alex. So I had this class with Alex, and he was really cute, and I found out that he was pledging my favorite fraternity, which I'm not going to say the name. And he was a really nice guy, and we had class together, and we would like send each other notes if one of us was sick or absent, and whatever, we became friends, I guess. And one day we started texting, and we just kind of texted all day long, and it wasn't flirty at all. It was nothing suggestive. There was no part of any of the conversation that suggested he was into me or I was into him. We were literally just friends in this class who were texting one day. And that night I was going out with my friends, and I asked him if he was going out, he could come meet me and my friends, because he was like a really nice kid. And he wasn't going out, whatever reason, he didn't want to go out, so he wasn't going. So I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'm gonna go with my friends. So I went out with my friends, and yes, we were drinking, like, shoot me, sue me. Underage drinking does happen in college. I'm not saying that I condone it. Everyone can make their own personal decisions, but in college, it's extremely prevalent, especially when you go to a huge public university. My university is notorious for being a party school, so I would say more people than not do drink, whether they're 21 or not, and that is a personal choice. So if you don't want to drink if you're not 21, that's okay. I chose to partake in drinking on this occasion. Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of my stories kind of have to do with alcohol involvement. So if you're sensitive to that, you probably won't like anything I have to say ever. So sorry about it. So I was drinking, and by the end of the night, obviously I was intoxicated. And he was still texting me all night, even when I was out at the bar with my friends. Again, not really being flirty, just being my friend. And he offered to come pick me up and give me a ride since he was sober because he didn't go out. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, like whatever. He can give me a ride. So he comes to get me. I'm super intoxicated. Again, just reiterate that. And I don't remember if he asked me if I'd rather go to his house or back to my dorm, but we ultimately ended up going back to his house. And when we got there, he said he wanted to watch a movie, which I think we all know Netflix and chill now doesn't really mean watch a movie, but he really meant watch a movie. He put a movie on. We were laying in his bed, and one thing escalated to another, and we ended up hooking up. I don't want to say that I regret that or the other one night stand, which I'll get into, because in the moment I was giving consent. I was like, yes, we can hook up, but I was also drunk. And when you're drunk, you lose your inhibitions, you aren't making good judgment, you think everything is so cool and so great and you're so happy or whatever, and sober you would not feel that way. So after we hooked up, I kind of immediately went down into like shutdown mode. Like, what did I just do? So I asked him to take me home. So the next day, when I was sober and could reflect on what I had just done, I also felt really bad about myself. I couldn't believe that I just had sex with this person who I honestly didn't know that well. When I was drunk, that if I was sober, I would not have had sex with this person. It was just a really, really difficult time for me. Like, I would say that was one of my lowest points of my college career. I was fresh to college. I didn't know how to handle my alcohol. I didn't know how to be completely independent, even though I was trying. I dug myself in this little grave that I thought was the end of the world, which I can only now tell you that it's not. It was just a really, really, really hard time for me. Like, I felt so bad about myself. I thought that like I was worthless. I couldn't believe that I'd done that. I've never cried so much. Like, I was so low, like, in that moment. Okay, next one night stand story. This was more recent. This was from like 3 or 4 months ago, so my sophomore fall. This one wasn't as traumatic on me, but I still felt extremely fucking shitty about myself. There was a guy that I'd been friends with since the beginning of college, so by now we've been friends for like 1.5 years, and I went out one night and I was with all my friends and it was really fun, and I ended up ending the night at my friend's house. Like, my favorite fraternity, there's like this house that guys in the fraternity live in, and all my friends live there, so I hang out there a lot, and that's like the house that I ended my night at. So I'm there with my best girlfriend, a couple guys who live in the house, and then this other guy that I've been friends with for all of college, but he doesn't live at the house. We're gonna name him Mark. We were all hanging out, and because I was, again, intoxicated, for some reason, it was like 4 in the morning, and I was like, oh my god, my car is parked so far away. Obviously, drunk, can't drive my car. So, whatever. I could have called an Uber. There was a lot of things I could have done, but when you're intoxicated, you're not thinking straight. I'm with my friend, the guy friend, Mark, and he lives like around the corner, and he's just like, oh, like, I can give you a ride to your car in the morning. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Then can I just like crash at your place? Like, we were friends, so you're not really thinking anything of it, especially when you're drunk. And he was like, yeah, of course. So it's like 4 in the morning. So like, okay, well, let's just go home. We'll go to sleep. When we wake up, we'll go get my car. So we go to his house. We're about to go to sleep. And then he insinuates that he wants to hook up. I was just drunk and it happened. It's hard when you're drunk and the lines are blurred and the other person's really drunk too. And it's a difficult situation. It's way more gray than black and white. Yes or no. Should we do it? Should we not? It's really hard. And if you've been in that situation, you know, and if you haven't, I'm telling you now that it's so difficult to know what to do. Next day, wasn't happy about it. I called my friend to come pick me up from his place. I didn't even care about him taking me to my car. I just wanted to go home. Again, it was really tough on me. I felt pretty bad about myself, But since I'd already been in the situation before a year prior, I knew how to brush it off more easily, which is what I'm going to now explain. If you hook up with someone, drunk or not, one night stand or not, someone you maybe didn't really want to hook up with, but you're in a situation where you did, whatever, and you feel bad about yourself, I promise you, you have so much more self-worth than that. And your worth doesn't come from who you've had sex with, what your body count is, anything like that. Society likes to pin on us, especially women, that the number of people you've had sex with and who you've had sex with and when, why, where is so important that it diminishes our self-worth, which is literal bullshit. So please don't feel like you're any less of a human or a person or a woman because of a decision you made. You still have so much value. So much. Like, I cannot reiterate that enough to you. And I had to tell myself that it doesn't matter. It's also private. That is something private that happened to you. Unless you go telling people what you did and how it happened and why, then no one's gonna know. So if you don't want people to know and you don't want it to be made into this big thing, which was a fear of mine, I was like, oh my God, so many people are gonna find out, all our friends are gonna know, I'm gonna look like a slut, it's gonna look so bad, like all this stuff, that all because society tells us that's what's gonna happen if we have sex with a certain person or whatever. Guess what? I freaked out and I thought so many people were gonna know and I was gonna be slut shamed and I was gonna have a bad reputation. Literally no one ever found out about either of those situations. And if they did, they kept it to themselves and were respectable enough people to not gossip about it. Don't gossip. Like, I get having girly sleepovers and like talking about the latest information on the social scene, but there is no point in spreading things about other people, especially if it's something that's hurtful or shameful or anything like that. There's no point, so don't do it. Also, if it feels like it's the end of the world, you have to remember that everyone else is in college too. And everything that you do that you think is so bad and you're never gonna recover from it and it's the end of the world, there are people out there, maybe even some of your best friends, who have done much, much worse things. You can't hate yourself. It's college. This is the time to have hookups and have one-night stands and make mistakes and do really stupid things drunk. People understand because everybody is also living it with you. And I can just guarantee you that no matter how bad you feel about yourself or how bad you think it is, one, don't feel bad about yourself, own your body, own your decisions. It's private and personal to you and no one's going to know unless you tell people. Two, realize that it's not as bad as other things that are going on in other people's life or other things that other people have done. So whatever you've done that you feel so bad about probably doesn't even compare in comparison to other insane situations that other people are having to cope with and deal with. Three, your worth does not come from anything related to sex, and don't let anyone ever tell you that it does. For all I care, go have sex with 600 people right now, today. Go you, props to you. That doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you shameful. It doesn't make you disgusting. It's your body, it's your decision, and I just want you to live with any decision that you make. I've had to live with decisions I've made, even if some of those decisions have been kind of irresponsible or bad or whatever you want to call them, but I've learned so much from those decisions, and I can tell you now, 3 months ago from the last time, over a year ago from the first time, it has not affected my life in a negative way or a positive way. It just hasn't. It was just something that happened one night in that moment, and it has not affected me. And if you don't let it affect you, it won't affect you either. I hope that these stories and my advice was helpful. I know that there's probably a lot of girls who are in similar situations and they just don't know what to do or they feel really bad. Honestly, don't feel bad about yourself. And talk to your friends. I talked to my closest girlfriends when these things happened, and they just kind of lifted me up and reminded me of how awesome and positive a person I am and that I can't let one bad decision get me down. And I hope that you guys take that away from this as well. Have a good day, everybody.